I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down? He should calm down.
So he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber! Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You're not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man. Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG, I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube. Obviously, podcast from iTunes, Spotify, Radio, etc. I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. You find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms. We're going to be talking all things boxing today. Wilder Breazeale card. We're going to break that down. The WBSS World Boxing Super Series doubleheader in Glasgow, Scotland. Definitely going to break that down in some length because that card, maybe just the doubleheader itself, is just fantastic. Billy Joe Saunders is fighting some guy we've never heard of for a vacant belt. Yeah, this is boxing, is what it is. Plus a litany of news topics to get to. Canelo getting a mandatory order from the IBF to fight Sergey Derevchenko. Will he take it or vacate the belt and fight Triple G in the summer? A lot to get to, a lot to break down. Again, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, listen on podcast form. Again, share the show. If you're on iTunes, drop that 5-star review and over to patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. $1 a month gets you extra content weekly. We just did a show yesterday for Patreon. I'm going to do a show tomorrow for Patreon. I don't know how it's going to be done exactly, but tomorrow, tomorrow, Anthony Walker, Jason Burgos of Sheridan.com will be joining me at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Pacific for a MMA show and a Avengers spoiler riddled review of, obviously, Avengers Endgame. So that should be a lot of fun. Obviously, Anthony and Jason are great friends of the show. You can see a lot of their content on our YouTube page. Go down to our friends and affiliate playlist. See that. Plus, obviously, our friends at Slip and Dip Podcast. Matthew Wells, good friend of the show. They just interviewed Virgil Ortiz. So I know Gary out there, if you want some Virgil Ortiz content, one of our good friends and affiliates, in a sense, air quote affiliates, this unspoken of group of podcasters. Go check out that show. It's a great show. And plus, I know Gary's going to love that content with Virgil Ortiz. And plus, they just did a show with Joseph Diaz. I want to say they did one with Gary Russell Jr. too. They did a bunch of interviews lately that was really good. I don't remember off the top of my head, but go check them out. It's a relatively newer channel and show, but those guys have been around for a long time. Go support our friends of the show. But digressing, shout out to Johnny, Leonard, Jay in the chat. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. And let's get into the news and the fights of the day and of the weekend. Let's get into this Wilder Breazeale card first, because obviously, let's be honest, it's the marquee card of the weekend, at least in terms of name value, especially here in the U.S. There's definitely an argument if you're isolating yourself to the U.K. market, probably the Taylor Baranchyk fight in of itself is the higher marquee fight, and even then you have BJS Saunders on top of it in the U.K. market. But in our neck of the woods, and just to be honest, overall, the exposure, the amount of eyeballs that will be on Wilder Breazeale is going to surpass Saunders and, what's his name? I always forget this guy's name. Let me look up really fast right here. Shafat Isufi. Sure, go for that. Gary, I mentioned something to you, but you obviously just joined in. Gary, when you get the chance, go check out on our YouTube page. Go towards the bottom. There's an affiliates and friend of the show section of our YouTube page, and one of our good friends of the show, Matthew Wells on Slip and Dip Podcast, he just did an interview with Virgil Ortiz. So I know you're gonna love that. Go check it out, Gary. After this show, not right now. But again, I know you would really like that content. But I forget what I was going about with Blazer Saunders. Oh yeah, the amount of eyeballs exposure, Wilder Breazeale being the marquee event. It just is. This probably is going to do north of 1 million views. It might do just under that. I could see anywhere from a low 900,000 average viewership for the telecast all the way to 1.1, 1.2 million for this. It's going to be somewhere around that range most likely. And probably the one event that's going to sort of keep Showtime boxing afloat, and at least in the first half of this year, because really nothing has done good numbers for them in 2019. This card will, though, just because of Wilder's name value alone, let's be honest. But to the fight itself, Wilder Breazeale, I think it's a pretty simple fight to predict and break down. Both guys aren't really the best movers, but even then, I would say Wilder is at least a marginally better lateral mover than Dominic Breazeale. I know that might be controversial to say, but I think it's just the case. On top of it, I think Wilder is the harder person to hit in the ring, and that's just because Breazeale is so extremely easy to hit, and I think Wilder's going to have a far easy time to find that right hand, and it'll be over fast, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to go more than 6-7 rounds. I just don't see it. Wilder is a slow starter, but his personality in this build-up reminds me of the Stavern rematch. So I think we're going to see probably an ultra-aggressive Wilder in the beginning. I think Breazeale, again, the lack of head movement, lack of footwork, even going backwards. Like, he has zero distance management, like, in his arsenal. Zero. Breazeale is good at putting punches together in combination, but they're slow punches in combination. They're pretty basic combinations on top of that. I just think that Wilder's going to have a field day with this. Yes, Wilder is a hittable guy. Yes, Wilder can get touched up by subpar competition. So Breazeale is going to hit him at times, but I don't think anything extensive is going to happen in terms of Breazeale's side in this fight. I think this should be a Deontay Wilder fight and probably one-way traffic. Again, pretty easy fight to break down. It's a mandatory, let's be honest. The co-main event, Gary Russell Jr. fighting Kiko Martinez in an absolutely atrocious fight. God. Kiko Martinez. Let's see the last time he was relevant. He fought Josh Warrington in 2017 and lost a majority decision. So that was 2 years ago. And then he fought Leo Santa Cruz and lost via KO in 2016. And by the way, there's wins in between that, obviously, but no one of note. No one of note, guys. Lost to Scott Quigg in 2015, Carl Frampton 2014, Carl Frampton 2013. This is when he was relevant. And even then, he had lost his way before. And then, like, Kiko Martinez is not good at all. I think Gary Russell's going to have a pretty easy fight here, and hopefully this is a tune-up. He's been talking a lot recently about fighting Leo Santa Cruz, and here's a quick quote from Sean Nam saying, Gary Russell on unifying with Leo Santa Cruz. I don't think he wants it, and I'm beginning to question if the managers and promoters want it, or maybe his coaching staff. I don't know, but I've definitely been wanting this fight for a long time. Says Leo Santa Cruz is on the top of his list, and if that doesn't work, he wants to move up and fight Burchelt and then unify with Gervonta Davis. He adds on to that, I'm just irritated that guys in and around my weight class are not willing to fight me. That's from Gary Russell Jr. by way of Sean Nam. Look, again, this fight's atrocious. Hopefully this is just a showcase, and this is a sign that Gary Russell's going to fight more than once a year. That's the only positive and silver lining you can take from this really bad matchup that no one was asking for. Let's just be honest about it. Again, Gary Russell should win. God, if this goes to decision, that'd be sad. Like, Gary Russell has more power than Josh Warrington. He doesn't fight like he does, but he has more power than Josh Warrington. I expect this to not go past 8, being honest. The rest of the card, not that great. You do have a Richardson-Hitchens fight on it against someone that's 4-1-3. You have the other Gary Russell brothers on it as well. You have a heavyweight prospect, Robert Alfonso, on it against Igo Kalatsi. That's a decent fight, but I'm using the word decent there pretty loosely, actually. But it's not a good card. The budget obviously goes towards Wilder to keep him here instead of that DAZN deal and even the ESPN deal. Let's just be honest about the situation here. But, again, should be a really good viewership, really good sort of event in terms of numbers for PBC and Wilder. Let's just be honest about it. Moving on, the next card of the weekend of note, even though it comes before chronologically in the day than the Wilder card, is the Ivan Baranchyk, Josh Taylor fight with the co-main event of Amanda Rodriguez versus Breazeale Inoue. Potentially, I've seen a lot of think pieces saying that this is the best card of the year. I don't know about that. I think on paper, probably the Rungs VI Estrada 2 card with TJ Doheny and Dan Roman is probably better, just being honest, on paper. Though, there's an argument, and plus it's so very early in the year, and there have been a lot of fantastic, great, and on top of that, big, air quote, big fight cards of the year. The ones we're talking about as fight cards of the year are honestly hardcore fight cards. Like, they're not ones that peak to the casual interest at all. But digressing from that, Baranchyk Taylor, I think this is a pretty easy fight to call as well, and sort of a similar thread from a lot of the fights we're going to break down is just the footwork. Josh Taylor's lateral movement, his ability to judge distance and range, his jab, also his ability, and what we've seen, to adapt mid-fight to adversity like he did against Victor Postal, just has shown me enough in Josh Taylor where I know he can beat a guy like Ivan Baranchyk, who is a quite basic boxer. A guy that doesn't have great lateral movement, a guy that really wants to get in the pocket in exchange, but we've seen him get hurt. And I would also add that he doesn't have the greatest fundamentals when it comes to getting to the inside. Maybe once he's there, he does very good work. I will definitely admit that. But getting there, it's rough. And I think Taylor's going to have a lot of success in that in-between range where Baranchyk tries to sort of dart in on the inside. I think Taylor's going to have his way with counters here. We could even see a potentially wide decision, but with numerous knockdowns in this fight. We could see a late finish, but I think Taylor's going to win this fight fairly easy. I think the Victor Postal fight was a far tougher fight than Ivan Baranchyk, just being honest here. Baranchyk struggled with an unknown Anthony Yiggett. I think Josh Taylor's, again, should win this fight fairly easy. Now, in the co-main event, probably the toughest fight to pick, or at least the closest fight to a 50-50 matchup we have on this entire weekend. Me and Rob were talking about it yesterday. Like, there's a lot of good names all across this weekend, but not a lot of great 50-50 matchups in a sense. But the Rodriguez and Inoue fight is probably the closest to that. Rodriguez is a guy that he does everything really good. Good jab, good lateral movement, good sense of distance, good sense of timing, really good chin, durability, good combinations, good sense of game planning and adjustments mid-round, mid-fight. He just does everything really good. But then you look at Inoue, and he just does everything flawless, if that makes sense. Inoue is not the flashiest guy in there, but what he does, it's near perfect. Like, he never overcommits. He never puts himself in a dangerous position. On top of that, he is a guy that is always in control, whether it be the distance of the fight, the real estate of the fight, the pace of the fight. He is the one that is determining all of those factors in a fight, or at least from what we've seen, he does that. I think Rodriguez is going to be in there for the long haul. I think he might make it to the decision. But I think Inoue is just, for everything that Rodriguez does well, that he's very good at, Inoue just does better, if not perfect at it. And I think on top of that, Inoue's power is just, it's coming into his own. Now at 26 years old, I think he's finally maturing as a fighter. I would also add he's not cutting too much weight anymore. I think that sort of sacrificed some of his power early on in his career. But I see Inoue, as this fight goes on, having more success. I think Rodriguez is going to potentially win some rounds early due to his activity, and Inoue at times struggling to retain control. And because he is one of those guys that wants to be in control, when he's not, his game suffers. It does. And I think that's where Rodriguez will have success. But the moment Inoue reestablishes control with the range and the real estate of the fight, I think naturally the pace, the tempo of the fight will sort of be reined in as well. And Inoue is just going to be in control with the jab. And I think Rodriguez is going to have a tough time getting on the inside, a tough time staying on the outside and feeling safe. I think the monster is going to come after him, especially later on in the fight. And we're going to see a potential finish. And I think that's a high, distinct possibility here because Rodriguez is a guy that does get susceptible to a firefight. And Inoue is too perfect in mid-combination. He just is. Maloney was a really good competitor, a really good prospect, but Rodriguez struggled with him. Inoue is a different level, entirely in a different level. But I cannot wait for this fight. Again, the closest fight we have to a 50-50 matchup this entire weekend. And honestly, probably the best, or at least the toughest matchup on paper for Inoue in some time. I mean, let me look back on the exact chronological. Yeah, probably Navarez was the last real, like, wow, this was maybe a too soon fight, and then he knocked him out in 2 rounds, which was entirely shocking at the time. But Kohei Kono, I don't think that matches up. He was coming off a loss. Antonio Neves, no. Jamie McDonald, no. Piano, even though I think Piano gets extremely underrated in this division based off of that knockout loss to Inoue. I don't think anyone has the exact sort of hype, hardcore push, and the sense of, oh, they can hang with Inoue like Rodriguez does. I don't think any of those guys, we had the feeling like, oh, their durability means that they can hang in there with this guy. Rodriguez has that sort of edge to that factor to it where we think he can take these shots. If he does, then it might be a different fight. Moving on, the rest of this card, not a great undercard in terms of great matchups, but there are some good names. Paul Butler on the undercard, Chantel Cameron on the undercard. So, again, not bad. Zach Parker on the undercard. So, there's some decent prospects, but nothing that really, no matchups that make you go, oh, yes, this is a prospect matchup that makes me think we're going to see something here. Should be some showcases here, but that's fine. Moving on, last full card we're going to break down, or at least full card. Breazeale Saunders versus Shafat Sufi for the vacant WBO super middleweight belt. I will say this, Breazeale Saunders looks like he's in really good shape at 168. I think he's filled into the division quite well. I don't see how this relatively unknown opponent is going to do against Breazeale Saunders. Again, footwork, I think Breazeale Saunders is going to just dance around him for 12 rounds, win decision, and look kind of poor doing it because Breazeale Saunders only looks good when he's against really good competition, let's be honest. The rest of the undercard, Joe Joyce is on against Alexander Usanov in a fight that no one was asking for. Joe Joyce should win within 10 rounds easily. Roy Jones also on the undercard, trying to get back from that loss. Poor guy facing Sean Cooper, who's an undefeated guy. That should be fun right there, for at least for a lot of UK hardcore fans. And that's about it. Harley Ben on the undercard. Yeah, nothing really jumps out in any significant way. Those two prospects, or I should say fights or so, those are the ones that make the most sense to pay attention to. The rest of the weekend, though, there are quite a few fights. RingTV.com has a card the 16th, which is tomorrow. RingTV.com, it has Romero Duno versus Juan Antonio Rodriguez. Manny Robles' son, the third, is on that card. Carlos Morales on the undercard. I think he fought, who did he fight recently? Like Ryan Garcia, I want to say. Ryan Burnett is fighting on Friday on ESPN+. There's a UFC Fight Pass boxing card with Marco Huck on it, Toko Clary on it. Who else? There was another fight that or person. Adrian Sosa, obviously I think the brother of Jason Sosa. What else? I think that's it for There's a Hector Camacho Jr. untelevised card against Victor Abreu. Should be a good untelevised card. But anyways, a lot of fights this weekend. Have fun trying to watch them all. Remember, guys, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you're international, add us on Skype, Mix Combat Radio. Let's get to the news of the day, and then let's get to you guys' calls as quickly as possible. Mike Coppinger saying, sources, the IBF today ordered a middleweight title fight between Canelo Alvarez and Sergey Derevchenko and notified camps for each fighter they have 30 days to complete a deal before a purse bid is ordered. Canelo added the IBF belt to his collection with a win over Daniel Jacobs. There are exceptions for the IBF. They have done that before. They did with Julius Ndongo to fight Terence Crawford. I forget who the mandatory was at the time, but I remember they did that. I think it's a distinct possibility they have an exemption here, or at least maybe an extension. I think that's a possibility, especially since you just won the belt. Usually, if you just win a belt, you can ask for an exemption for the mandatory and take a voluntary, and that could be Triple G, that could be anyone. Canelo is a moneymaker that a lot of different fighters aren't. So when we talk about the IBF stripping Triple G or Tyson Fury, for example, those guys aren't the moneymakers that Canelo is. So I think we always have to put that into context. However, I do think it's a distinct possibility that they do force Canelo's hand here, and that'd be interesting to see if the IBF does go over to PBC. Because we've talked about that before, that DAZN found a way to monopolize this division, and then you have guys like Jamal Charlo out in the cold. Is there any way that we now have it where the IBF forces his hand, and that IBF belt does go towards the PBC route, and we have a Jamal Charlo, Sergey Derevchenko vacant title shot for it on Fox? Or, yeah, because I don't think Brandon Adams is going to defeat him. Yeah, come on. That's a distinct possibility. And we know how the wheels of sanctioning bodies get worked, so who knows what happens here, guys. But it still would be shocking, I think, if the IBF really try to force Canelo's hand here. Like, if there wasn't a single extension here and they just stripped him of his belt, that would be pretty shocking, let's be honest, guys. Because Canelo's too much of a moneymaker. The IBF wants that 2 or 3% sanctioning fee from all of his fights. If they don't, God, I question their business mentality, let's be honest. Michael Hunter is now has a fight scheduled for that May 25th date since Alexander Usyk got hurt. And Fabio Maldonado, former UFC fighter, who has now made a semi-career in boxing. He's fought Oscar Rivas and other guys. A tough, durable guy that makes it a decision. So this fight's probably going to go all 10 or 12 rounds, and Michael Hunter's going to win every single round. Yay. Yay, guys. So much fun. So much fun. Moving on, Sullivan Barrera was originally set to fight, I think his name is Michael Seals, but he's now being shifted to the Tyson Fury Tom Schwartz ESPN card June 15th in Las Vegas versus Jesse Hart. Ooh. Jesse Hart versus Sullivan Barrera. Yes. Give me that. I love that fight. That makes complete sense. I think I speak for everyone. That makes not only complete sense, but that should be an exciting fight. I don't see how that's really a bad action fight. I think both guys' styles are going to really mesh well in the ring. Speaking of DAZN, going back to sort of DAZN, Murat Gassiev is being lined up for his heavyweight debut July 27th, which I think is going to be that Maurice Hooker undercard. Cool, nothing super groundbreaking. The Berchelt Vargas card apparently did really good numbers for ESPN. peaked over 1 million views. I'm really curious to see what the telecast average was, since the Dogbe Navarrete fight averaged under 750,000 viewers. Again, I hate when we don't get a total telecast average instead of just a peak. I'd rather much have the telecast average, because that is usually what we compare it to for other events, or at least what I compare it to for other events. That seems to be the industry standard. But again, the peak is pretty decent, so good for them. Moving on, last news topic of the day, then we're going to callers, guys. So remember, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. International callers, Skype in Mixed Combat Radio. A development on the Kubrat Pulev situation with Jenny Ravallo. He is now being ordered to pay a fine of $2,500 and take a harassment prevention class before he applies for a boxing license again. I think that's fantastic. That's exactly sort of what I wanted. At least some reprimand in some way. It's a very small monetary fine, and it's a harassment prevention class. But I do want to put this in context here in some way. You can find this over. I'm not going to repeat what is said in this conversation because it's kind of filthy, and I just really don't care to. But if you want to find it, Mike Dixon over at Mike Dixon Sports on Twitter posted this. He said, Kubrat Pulev's wife, Andrea, sent these nasty messages to Jenny Sushi on Instagram weeks before today's hearing. She was attacked by fans, some media members, and Andrea Pulev because they assumed this was about the money. And again, I'm not going to read these DMs out, but it's literally just her sending awful DMs over and over again, and Jenny Ravallo not responding. Shout out to Jenny Ravallo for not responding. But if you are one of these people out there sending messages to women that were sexually harassed like this, fuck off. Like, you're just a despicable human being. Like, don't do that. It's very easy. Like, what if that was your mother? What if that was your sister? What if that was your daughter? Like, have some fucking self-awareness and some common human decency. Don't be like Andrea here, who should have her phone taken away. Holy shit. But anyways, guys, let's get to callers. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. International callers call in on Skype, Mixed Combat Radio on Skype. Santiago, press 1 to get in the queue. I see you there, but I don't know if you're busy working and just listening or if you want to call in. Going out to Gary in Dallas. Gary, what's up?
All right. First of all, no. With Pulev, no. Either one of two things happened. Either what happened, what we all saw happen, and he sexually assaulted her and grabbed her by her face and kissed her, then he should get severely punished, or he did nothing wrong, and she initiated it, right? But, like, to give him that punishment, $2,000 and go to a class, is weaker than Jarrell Big Baby Miller's suspension. If that wasn't premeditated,
well, come on, Gary, come on. The Big Baby situation was not under their jurisdiction. They could not give him a suspension. The most they could do was not give him a license because he wasn't licensed by them.
Okay.
Do you understand like the difference there?
I'm just saying. I understand the difference.
But Gary, I fully understand why you think this is a weak punishment. But at least there is a clause here saying, hey, you cannot get a license again unless you take this class. I like that. That's good. And to be honest, I am not for the mindset that we should fine him an exorbitant amount of money. He should be fined, but he didn't rape, he didn't molest her. It was a kiss. It was sexual harassment in the workplace. That's a fine. That's a sexual harassment class before you can work again. And if you do it again, you get a higher fine, you get a higher penalty. I think this is fine. Okay. This is largely fine. This is not a big issue in my mind.
What do you think his purse was for the fight? I don't know.
I don't think it was that much. I don't think it was that much, to be honest, Gary. I can go back if you want me and look, but I think it was below 6 figures.
All right, let's just use 100. Can we use 100?
Sure.
That's like 100. Let's say he made $100,000. Just and I think that's probably close to right. So let's say that's a year's salary. If the average person goes into their office and does that to a female employee, what would happen to him? They'd be fired on the spot. You know it. You know what I'm saying? It's like.
But Gary, but then again, we have like cops shooting unarmed people and pregnant women, and they like
they should go to jail for murder.
and they keep their jobs. So like I fully agree with the morality of what you're saying here, Gary. But the real world situation, no, that does not happen. And at least we got something here. This could have. I'm surprised we got something here, to be honest. And I think the only reason we did is because it was California. If this was Texas, if this was any commission that is, and I don't mean to make that like a coastal versus south thing. I mean like in terms of commission efficiency thing. Like California is a good commission. Texas is a bad commission. I'm trying to think of other bad commissions. Like, like Delaware has a shitty commission. Pennsylvania has a shitty commission. Like I would not assume they would do the right here. It would only take a California and maybe even not Nevada, maybe a New York or New Jersey do something, you know? So we got something here, Gary. I think that's a plus.
It seems like they did something just not to do, you know, like okay, I don't really want to do anything, so I'll give him a $2,000 fine and make him go to a class? Yeah, I don't know. It's like, what is that? Like one of the sexual harassment classes you take at work? It's like, okay, if that wasn't premeditated, then there needs to, okay. I agree. It's good that they did something.
Yeah, of course.
But that something is almost nothing. That something is, give him a $15,000 fine. Make him feel it. Make him feel it somehow.
Sure.
$2,000 is.
No, we can probably agree with that, Gary. We can probably agree with that, especially when we haven't. And this is total whataboutism, I know, but we have in the same context, not in the same context, totally erase that. In the same sport, we have people like Julio Cesar Chavez get fined $900,000 for smoking weed.
Right.
You know, like there is a clear discrepancy in how commissions and sanction bodies deal with malfeasance, both from a legit cheating side, a immorality side, a bad sportsmanship side. There's a clear discrepancy in how they deal with it. Yeah, I agree with you, Gary.
Okay, and I didn't really want to go off on that. I wanted to first, Baranchyk. Is this really? Usually, the only exceptions that the IBF will grant are for unification fights, right? They'll allow Baranchyko's fight to be pushed back if Canelo gets a unification fight, right? Unifications take precedence of a mandatory, typically.
Allegedly.
Okay. So, I don't understand. Like, Baranchyk just fought for the title. He lost. So then within 8 months again, he gets another mandatory shot. I usually like the IBF over the last few years since they had their legal issues. Like, I think they've done a pretty good job compared to the other organizations. But what's their deal with Baranchyk? He just got a title shot, and he lost it. How is he the mandatory again?
I don't know. I'm looking at the IBF rankings as quickly as possible right now, to maybe find some reason to that. But I mean, it wouldn't be the first thing. That's shocking. We have in the because now we have Canelo as the champion. Number 1 is Baranchyk. Number 2 is vacant. There's no number 2 ranked guy. Number 3 is Golovkin. Number 4 is Szermeta from Poland, who's 19-0. Never heard of him. Number 5 is Jacobs, who just lost the belt. Then number 6, Wojcicki, who's a 12-0-1 German prospect. Falcao from Brazil, who's a decent prospect at number 7. Oh, Steve Rolls at number 8. Look at that. Jack Kelkay at number 9. Butler at 10. Volney at 11. Like, I don't need to keep going down this list. You can kind of tell why Baranchyk is at that spot because this entire ranking is trash.
It's not great. It's not great. I just don't like. He's basically gotten 2 mandatories in 8 months now, right? Because when was the Jacobs fight? Like October, November, something like that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, whatever, right?
Yeah, whenever
and
it was.
so then now he's going to get another one. It's not like that was some kind of robbery where he lost. They're like, we're going to get you. He clearly lost.
Yep.
Right? Like, he never taken a loss that fight. I mean, it was competitive, but he lost. Right? Everyone thinks he lost. I just don't understand how they put him right back in mandatory position. Like, and then saying we're going to strip Canelo, you don't fight Derevchenko?
Allegedly.
Really? Like, that's what Derevchenko? It's just a weird power move. It seems like that is stupid. Like,
yes.
Do you want to see Canelo fight Derevchenko?
No.
You have any interest in that fight?
No, not really.
I don't think anyone does. Yeah, that's my rant on that. And then you're saying Breazeale will have 6 rounds, 5, 6 rounds?
He might go 6, 7 rounds.
He might go.
Not win.
He could go 6 or 7 rounds.
Yeah.
No, obviously. But he pick a round. What round do you think he get knocked out? Because I'm saying like 3rd.
If you have to like 5th, I'm gonna go 5th round.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna hedge my bets a little bit.
Knocked out early.
The closer this fight gets to like the day, I'm leaning towards a closer and closer like early finish because it just has that feeling to it. It reminds me of Stavern too, but who knows, man? Breazeale is a kind of a tough guy. He might be able to take some of these shots.
Maybe. I mean.
And when I say that, I mean like he may be able to take it for a few rounds more than the common guy.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, Spielka went rounds. Spielka went rounds with him. Eric Molina went rounds with him. Almost everyone in his title reign has gone past the halfway mark. The only one guy has gone below that, I think, and that's the Stavern rematch. I think everyone else has gone past 6 rounds.
Washington went out in the 6th round, I think, something like that. Gerald Washington.
Might have, yeah, you might be right about that one.
Because he was doing okay in that fight until he got knocked out. Yeah, I think he gets knocked out early. I'll say 3rd. I'll say 3rd. Wilder seems like he has some type of dislike for this guy. I don't really get that. Breazeale seems like a cool dude, but Wilder really seems not to like him. So I think Wilder's going to go out for blood. I think it'll be a quick end for Dominic Breazeale. And then the other fight, Baranchyk and Taylor. You're with me. You think Baranchyk is a good fighter. Do you think he makes this interesting or no?
I think he makes it interesting until about round 5. And then Taylor's going to figure him out and adapt to it, and he's going to start winning rounds and rounds and rounds, maybe get a late finish.
Okay. That's kind of the way I see it. I mean, I think Baranchyk will be more than just an opponent. I mean, he's a world champion. He's a good fighter, but I don't see any way in which he can really make this thing competitive.
Come on, Gary. Air quotes. World champion. Everyone won a vacant belt here.
Everyone won. Yeah, that's true. Who did Baranchyk win for his beat for his belt?
Fuck. Hold on. I have box rec open up. Let me pull it up right here. And even then, you can argue like Crawford even did the same thing. Crawford won vacant belts. He won his belt off of his last fight, Anthony Ugat. That was for a vacant IBF. That was for that was for the vacant belt.
Yep,
okay. that was a vacant IBF belt. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that would be a short reign.
Yep.
And then we get Taylor and Prograis. I've gone back and forth every time one of the guys, either Prograis or Taylor, fought. I've swung to that guy's bandwagon. I'm really on Prograis' bandwagon now.
Same.
You would go with Prograis in that fight, right? Prograis versus Taylor.
Yep.
Is there anything Taylor can do this week to change your mind? If you get a third-round knockout, would he change your mind? If he absolutely dominates him and beats him up, is there anything he can do to be the favorite in that fight?
The favorite, no, but make it go back to 50-50, absolutely. Like you said, if he dominates him, wins every round, doesn't really make it look competitive, and gets a finish, yeah, I probably lean back to, man, this is a pick-'em fight, flip a coin. But yeah, he needs to be dominant in a way that he just hasn't necessarily in his last big fight, which was Victor Postal. He wasn't dominant in that. But then again, that's Victor Postal.
I thought he ran off the last 6 rounds of the fight after a really close start. I had it like 8-4, but I had Postal up like 4-2 early on. I thought Taylor won every round. But so that's like the 2 best wins.
Very quickly, Gary, mind if I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Going into it, okay. Let's sort of erase the Prograis-Raylick fight from our memory. Going into it, you have Prograis-Raylick, you have Taylor Baranchyk. Which fight in your mind was going to be the tougher fight to pick, the closer fight on paper?
I thought they would both be pretty competitive, but I thought Prograis and Taylor would both win. I really like Relic. I thought Relic was going to put up a really tough fight.
And how
when
that
he blew Relic out like that.
Exactly. With the way he blew him out like that, and I think we all thought Raylick was going to be far more competitive in that fight, and he wasn't. I think for Baranchyk, Baranchyk Taylor, we view that fight less competitive as that one. So the expectation for Taylor is higher than it was for Prograis. It just is. So he has to do more to blow us away than Prograis does, just naturally speaking.
Right. So he'd have to dominate him and stop him. Yeah, he'd have to beat him in as good or better fashion than Prograis beat Relic.
And even then, the reason why I say it doesn't revert to him being the favorite is because we expect him to beat Baranchyk. The Raylick fight for Prograis, that was a close fight that we thought Raylick could really be the dark horse in. And that turned out to be completely wrong. So that's why our sort of understanding or our perception of Prograis rose so dramatically because he demolished the expectations of that fight. Taylor is going to struggle to demolish the expectations of this fight.
But what was let's say Taylor wins this fight, and it looks great doing it. His resume is now good. I mean,
really good.
He is what he is. The first guy he fought in the first round, what was his name?
Ryan Martin.
Tennessee.
Ryan Martin.
Yeah, he was a prospect or whatever, but he will have wins over Postal and Baranchyk. Within how many fights does Josh Taylor have in his career right now?
It would be 15 after Baranchyk.
Okay, so he'll have, 2 A+ caliber wins in his or A caliber wins in his career. Like, is it really fair to make him an underdog with that resume against anyone in the division? He'll have the best resume in the division if he beats Baranchyk.
I don't know about that. You think Baranchyk is a better name than like Terry Flanagan, for example?
I picked Flanagan to win that fight.
I know.
I would say I would sound like an idiot now if I said yes, right? Because I picked Flanagan to beat Prograis.
I'm not trying to get you and I'm not trying to catch you in anything here. That was just the first thing that popped in my mind to sort of be because Barancyk's not the best name on his resume. It would be Postal, right, for Taylor.
Right.
So I'm trying to think of what would be a really good name on Prograis' resume, but it's not his best name. That's probably Terry Flanagan, right?
So would you say the best name on? Yeah, it's second. Where would you put Ndongo on that list?
I would probably put Ndongo actually as the second best win. Terry Flanagan as probably as the third best win, and Raylick as his best win. That was an earth shatter.
Best win for sure.
Yeah.
And I think Postal is a better name than Relic, and Baranchyk is a better name than Ndongo. Although, no, Ndongo had just viciously got knocked out by Crawford, right? I mean, I don't know how much was left in that version of Indongo that Prograis knocked out like that. That's what I'm trying to say. And then, but right, he's got Terry Flanagan too. Now, his resume is probably as good as Josh Taylor's.
It's pretty close. It's comparable. I should put it that way. It's maybe not 1-to-1, but it's definitely comparable.
No, you're right. Yeah, I guess. And then Prograis does it much more impressively. Not that Taylor doesn't look impressive. I think Taylor looks great. Prograis destroys people.
And then Prograis has like some like underrated names like Abel Ramos, Aaron Herrera. Like those are Jarrell Diaz Jr. Those are decent names that he's beaten that aren't big names, but we know them if you're hardcores.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird that it took Prograis until he was 30 to get a world title shot. Like, because his resume is not bad. He's got, those B-level names on his resume, like Ramos and Herrera. Like, those are, you beat up a bunch of those guys, you should get a title shot. He didn't get one at all until he was 30. Yeah, that's really. Oh, the other fight, the other WBSS fight, Inoue and Manny Rodriguez.
Yeah, how dare you forget that one?
I was big on Manny Rodriguez up until his last fight, and he just didn't really look impressive at all. You think he's going to just get blown out?
No, I don't think he's going to get blown out. I think it's going to be like Payano was getting blown out, right? That's a blowout. I don't think it's like that. I think it goes rounds. I think it goes maybe not to championship rounds, but it gets close. But I think Inoue is going to be too much, man. And the other thing is, like, when you look at, like, that Navarez fight for Inoue, that was going on, like, 5 years ago now. Like, that was a young Inoue who only had, like, 4 fights under his belt. He's completely changed, and he's been just demolishing his opponents as of late. He might just be peaking. Like with Canelo, like, he just all of a sudden just got really, really good and just better all of a sudden. Inoue has that vibe for me where I'm like, all of a sudden, every fight he looks extremely better in. Every fight we see a new wrinkle to his game. He just might be peaking at an exponential rate that I don't think Rodriguez can really match, because Rodriguez, like I said, is just good. He's a really good fighter in everything he does, but he doesn't do anything great. Nothing he does is singly great.
Right. And that was kind of like when he was coming up, he looked spectacular, and then like he looked so ordinary his last fight. Like this guy's not gonna have any chance against Inoue. I mean, I don't mean to be punny, but Inoue really is a monster. Right? There's no other word to describe.
Yeah.
I say maybe it goes into the mid rounds, 5th, 6th, 7th round, something like that. But I don't really see Rodriguez being competitive in the fight, like winning any rounds or anything like that. I think he maybe survives into the middle rounds.
It's possible. Yeah.
That's all I got.
Well, thank you, Gary, for the call. Always appreciate it, man. Let's go to Santiago in LA. Santiago. Oh. And by the way, Gary mentioning like Prograis being like 30, like why did it take him this long? He did start boxing relatively late. Like he started his pro career at 23 years old, not 18 years old, not 17 years old, at 23. And put that in context here, Shakur Stevenson started at 1918. That is a 5-year difference. That's a half a decade difference. So I think Prograis sort of got a late start in some ways that I don't think we really sort of understand, or at least are aware of, like, because Prograis sort of came out of nowhere as a hardcore darling, and I think that's because he kind of came out of nowhere in sort of a late stage, in a sense. Santiago, what's up?
No, not much. Enjoyed that little tidbit that you put out. I definitely think that context is key when it comes to like a variety of things, especially this one about Prograis starting out late. Because you're right, I do remember him just coming out of the woodwork. I actually remember him like being on Showbox one day, them talking about him. He already had his motif, Rougarou, the New Orleans werewolf, in the bag and everything. He looked good, knocking people out, dominating them in instances where he admitted to just being bored. And definitely a hardcore darling, some guy that I've been high on for a number of years now. You know this. And I'm looking forward to seeing him and Taylor fight in the finals. Definitely looking forward to Taylor doing his thing, having a competitive fight before he basically, as far as I'm concerned, styles on him, does his thing, reminds me why you're as high on him as I'm high on Regis. And it was nice. It's nice to also see the monster in action soon. And I gotta say, I still look back at the final win, and I was actually going around showing the knockout of Malik Scott by Wilder, and asking people who did it better with the 2 punches, just for fun.
That's messed up, Santiago, but that was funny.
Yeah, man, but it's gonna be nice. We got some good fights this weekend. And as high as I've been on Regis, you already know just how low I've been on a guy like Breazeale. I remember that when they first made the fight between Joshua and Breazeale, people were trying to give him a shot because he fought back and, knocked out Amir Mansour, breaking his jaw and shit. And I stayed steadfast in my belief that, Joshua was going to have a field day with him, and I was right to so many degrees. And I only think that this fight's going to be more competitive as the days get closer, just because of the fact that, unlike Joshua, Wilder hasn't really shown much of a finesse with the basics of boxing. I know that watching the All Access, they've been talking about working on the basics, trying to show up the deficiencies, but it's to be seen right now whether we'll actually see him try to take advantage of that the way Joshua did. I definitely think that Breazeale has been someone that knows and has been able to use his size to his advantage, the same way that Fury did against Steve Cunningham, the way that a Big Baby Miller has in his fights. So I definitely think that he's gonna, and he's tough. He's tough. He took a hell of a shellacking against Joshua for 8+ rounds. So if Wilder's able to get him out sooner, I think it'll be an impressive notch to him. Since something that people are definitely going to be looking at in comparison sense, which is as stupid a discussion as can be sometimes.
Agreed.
And as for the news about the IBF mandating Canelo, I definitely think that they're not going to do anything. Canelo makes too much money. He's got too good of a deal. I think they're going to probably make the extension or an exemption for him. It's going to be interesting to see who he does fight in his next fight, because after fighting a guy like Jacobs and putting on the performance he did put on against someone like Jacobs' caliber, I think he's due one soft touch right now. I think he is. And I've never been high on Canelo, for the record.
Nah, come on. Nah, Santiago. He just had Rocky Fielding in December, man. Nah. No. Give me Andrade or Triple G. I don't want a Derevchenko, because even that's a soft touch. He's now in a stage where his mandatory is a soft touch. Let's be honest about it.
Well, I wouldn't mind Demetrius Andrade. I think that would be a very interesting fight. I think it's a fight he could win, but I definitely think it's an interesting fight. I'm just more concerned about, the whole negotiating tactics of it all, because that seems to be the only thing that keeps ruining things. And then, with Billy Joe Saunders now fighting for the full WBO belt at super middleweight against a guy that I've never heard of, it's just sad to see the way some of these fights are going to be going,
Yeah.
Because what is it? Ramirez vacated, and then Baranchyk, he won a vacant title that Mikey vacated basically, so he could take the Spence fight. So it's weird. I feel like we're going to be entering another weird time when it comes to trying to make the fights that we think should be simple enough to make. Even with the monopolization of the middleweight division by the zone, I think it's going to start getting weird for some reason. What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because maybe not for the first time, but at least in my lifetime of watching the sport intently, right? Really watching it, we have competing promoters under the same umbrella all over the place. Both in a sense PBC side, Lou DiBella Promotions versus Mayweather Promotions. Just because they're PBC doesn't mean they get along all the time. Same with DAZN. They have Golden Boy, Matchroom, and obviously other smaller promoters like Sutherland with World Boxing Super Series. those are all competing factors or competing interests innately even within the network itself of DAZN. Same with ESPN, with Top Rank and Frank Warren's fighters. They're just because they are under the same house, so to speak, they do have competing interests at times. And I think for the example that we're bringing up is the middleweight division's monopoly under DAZN. Of course, it's going to get weird at times because we're going to have Oscar and Eddie negotiating fights. And no offense to either guy, but when those two men are involved in negotiations for high-level fights, sometimes it gets weird. Sometimes it gets very easy. Like the Daniel Jacobs one, that was a very easy fight to make, it seems. And hopefully that is an indication that this concern, this worry, is this competing interest of different promoters within the same network isn't as much of a factor as you may worry about, Santiago, because we did get Canelo Jacobs like that. Like it was nothing. But it's a possibility because, again, promoters had competing interests against other promoters all the time, even if they're under the same network umbrella.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing I want is an in-house Cold War. Those things are just awful.
That was weird.
But
like we seem to have one with Leo Santa Cruz and Gary Russell for some reason. Gary Russell's alluded to it, and I said it early on the show via Sean Nam. He said, like, hey, look, like I want the Leo fight. I've wanted it for a long time. They don't want it. My promoter doesn't want it. My manager doesn't want it. Whoever doesn't want it doesn't want it. So, it does happen, and we see it right now in recent times with a very great fight at featherweight that just is not being made.
Yeah, man, and we've been talking about that fight since before the rematch with Frampton with Santa Cruz. Mm-hmm. So, and again, for me with Gary Russell too, it was like, we look at a guy where when he first got the fight with Johnny Gonzalez, I thought Gonzalez was going to wash him because I just was not impressed with the caliber of opposition that Russell had been fighting. He goes out, blows him out in 4 rounds, and shows the kind of improvement that people assumed he did have of himself. And we're left with not just the fact that he's fighting guys that are, good fighters, but meant to lose to him, but also only fighting at the very most once a year. It's, in and of itself, it's tedious,
Agreed.
But, yeah, man, I don't really have much else to add. I did want to call in. I also want to give a special shout-out to Gary for his call. I actually just thought not too long ago, because of the hour-long chat, of nominating him for MCR's Chatty Cathy of the Year award, but I think I'll just nominate him for MCR's Caller of the Year award.
That would be nice.
Shout out to you.
Sorry, go.
Yeah, so shout out to you, Gary. I love some of your calls sometimes, but god damn, can you go on a tangent sometimes? I could imagine this being like one of those studio TV shows where Matt brings in our special guest, Gary. You guys sit down on the chair and everything, and that turns into its own segment in and of itself.
Gary's wanted that for some time. But thank you for the call, Santiago. Always appreciate it. Gary definitely probably gets Caller of the Year status, let's be honest. Because he calls in more than anyone. Probably maybe more than you, Santiago. I'm just saying. And boy, can Gary just fucking rant. Speaking as someone that loves a good rant, he can rant. So God bless Gary. Always a fantastic time to hear him call in and give his thoughts and opinions. But guys, ladies, that's it for today. Be back tomorrow. Probably gonna do a regular show, I think. Regular boxing show at 2 p.m. I don't know. Depends what the news is, and depends what Rob is doing, because we do have a late night show, double show it seems, with Anthony Walker and Jason Burgos of Sharedog.com. So definitely have to prep for that one, so I don't seem like the complete casual fan with those two hardcore MMA fans. But digressing, guys, have a great day, great night wherever you are. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe. You can find me, Mount Hunter MCR, all platforms, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. $1 a month gets you extra content every week. And hopefully Rob and Fu get back tomorrow because I miss them, man. Solo shows suck. They really do. They're not fun. Speaking as someone that has done a lot of solo shows and solo podcasts in my time, they are not fun. That is it. Vinny saying, is that it? Vinny, it is it. I apologize. That's all the news. Those are all my opinions about it, unless anyone wants to call in. We don't have Rob or Fu here to rant for another 30 minutes to an hour and give their opinions and takes about everything. But you have me. Don't worry. I hope you guys enjoy the content, regardless of it just being me without Rob, without Fu. Don't worry. Han and Chewie will be back tomorrow. Hopefully. Maybe. Please, God, be back. Please. But anyways, guys, have a great day. Peace.
Stay off the weed.
You piece of shit. I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you.
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?